Gerard were almost directly responsible for the immigration policy we came up with yesterday at conference, the 5-year moratorium, so well done to them.
Right, can we move ahead now with motion number 1? Derek Clark, please, is going to chair this session. And your first speaker, Derek, John Bailey.
Before we begin, ladies and gentlemen, and good morning to you, can I please ask for one person whose name I have here, Frederick Pearson of the Chingford and Woodford branch. Are you here, please, Frederick? Yes, you've put down a speaker slip, Frederick, but you didn't say which motion you wish to speak to. Is it this one or one of the later ones? Sorry? Number 4, thank you very much indeed. We shall therefore come to you a little bit later on. Can I please just remind everybody as to our rules of engagement with these motions, that the motion must be introduced by somebody off the branch which tabled it in the first place, and that person may speak for 4 minutes. All others, speaking for and against, may speak for 2 minutes. I shall, with 30 seconds to go, give you the indication that you're running up to time, and on the appropriate time of 4 or 2 minutes, I shall, well, I can't do what we do in the European Parliament, cut you off, but I shall make a bit of a fuss and make you shut up, because that's the time. At the end of the debate, you must please only vote with the voting card. And if you haven't got one, tough, use it. The other thing I might tell you is, ladies and gentlemen, is that the rules of engagement are such that if the motion is passed by a simple majority, then it only becomes party policy if the NEC debate and agree it. If it's passed by 2/3 majority, then it does become party policy. We have got John Bailey here. Do we have, please, Ian Edwards? Thank you. Kathleen Garner? Kathleen? Oh, thank you. They are speaking for, and only one speaking against, Anthony van der Elst. Are you here, Anthony? Thank you very much. If you don't mind, Anthony, I shall put you second after the speakers. I shall take John Bailey first, then Kathleen Garner, which gives you a bit of a chance to hear them, and then yourself, Anthony van der Elst, and finally Ian Edwards. And I shall give John Bailey the opportunity for 2 minutes at the end to wind up. Thank you, John, if you'll take a stand.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, the motion upon which you are asked to vote is not a definitive statement that we should abandon laissez-faire free trade. It is whether various forms of interventionism should be considered to help our economy. I would first point out that the classical arguments for free trade have serious problems in their applicability to the real world, that the historical evidence shows that countries have become stronger rather than weaker as a result of intelligent protection of their own industries, and thirdly, that a cursory examination of our present-day economy indicates it has serious structural problems. To expand briefly on these points, the classical arguments from Ricardo onwards are dubious because they make assumptions on the mobility of labour and capital within and between economies, and also because they depend on assumptions of equilibrium which are demonstrably inapplicable to present-day nations. On the lessons of history, contrary to popular opinion, Britain did not become the workhouse of the world under free trade. Britain developed into a strong industrial nation with an industry protected by high tariffs, only to lose this dominance with its adoption of free trade, starting with the 1846 repeal of the Corn Laws. Similarly, the USA in 1880 had a standard of living little better than that of a present-day developing country. It developed into the world's major industrial power only by protecting its own industries with high import tariffs. Japan, in the 1950s, developed its own industries, including the motor industry, with strong protectionist rules, and is now, of course, one of the foremost industrial nations. And what is the present-day state of Britain's economy? In the past decades, much of Britain's textiles, steel and manufacturing industries have been destroyed, not because Britain produced goods less efficiently than the current countries of Southeast Asia, but because the populations of these countries were willing to work for subsistence wages and the currencies were held at an artificially low level. Common sense indicates it is better for the populations of the UK to be productively employed than on welfare benefits. And although we have recently heard a lot that can be done as a result of withdrawing from the EU and improving the taxation system and other ways, I still believe that a sensible system of trading tariffs plus some government support is essential to allow manufacturing industry to be nurtured back to a reasonable level. It would have the potential to redress the UK's structural trade deficit, to create a better balance between the service and manufacturing sectors, and reduce the levels of unemployment in many areas of the country and sectors of the workforce. And a policy of this type is not one that can be stolen by any of the so-called major political parties. While we remain in the EU, we are compelled to obey its laws, and we may provide support for our own industries only if Brussels condescends to give its permission. The motion asserts there is, at the very least, a prima facie case for the careful reconsideration of laissez-faire free trade. I would ask all members to support this motion. Thank you.
Kathleen Garnier, please, to speak for. And I might tell you, ladies and gentlemen, there's a late entrant into the speakers list of Professor Stephen Bush, who wishes to speak against, and I shall ask him to speak last.
I know this. Can you hear me? Mr. Chairman, my lords, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to speak in favour of the motion because I believe that a form of graduated protectionism is the only way in which we can fulfil our aim of restoring British manufacturing. There are too many young people in this country with no skills and with no job to look forward to better than working in a bar or stacking shelves in the local supermarket. They cannot all be footballers or pop stars, which leaves only artificial fame or criminality as the employment opportunities of choice. Various speakers have lauded British manufacture, and our own manufacturing base would restore to young people the chance of a real trade and pride in producing something of value. Free trade, as propounded yesterday, will leave us as vulnerable as today to cheap imports, including by the back door, which would wreck our own manufacturing base. Remember that under the EU, we're not allowed to support our own industries. Once free of the EU, we can start looking after the interests of our own people and protect our own businesses from unfair competition from countries with lower social costs. We are a party which believes in freedom of thought, and therefore I ask you to support the idea that we should look carefully into how free trade would affect our own manufacturers and the important role these manufacturers could play in restoring the sense of worth and pride to our youth, and therefore to support this motion.
Anthony van der Elst, please.
Anthony van der Elst, Bromley and Chislehurst branch. This motion clearly opposes the party's stated free trade policy. It also implies that there may be a lack of freedom of debate within the party. Now, while I itch to fully argue the case for free trade, it's the question of party debate that I want to consider, and time won't allow me to do more than point to the cases of Hong Kong under British lease and Ludwig Erhard's German economic miracle as real, classic evidence of the unrivaled power and efficacy of unilateral free trade and free markets. And as our policy group have recognised, this is a crucial understanding for anyone interested in the future of the third world, a point often made by Alan Greenspan, whose recent book I strongly recommend. This is an unnecessary and confusing motion, for there exists no impediment to freely debate, in the exact words of the motion. I'm a founder member of UKIP, a survivor of that first bad-tempered meeting at the LSE, where we nearly tore each other apart. Coming from different parties and such widely differing ideological starting points, it was hardly surprising. But time and goodwill work their magic. And here we find ourselves an almost mature party with a spanking new leader of exceptional talent and a set of policies that stand comparison for common sense and intellectual coherence with the best ideas of any major party in the nearly 40 years that I've been politically active. How did we get here? Through debate. How did we develop our policies? Through debate. How did we get our new leader? Through democratic debate and election. The debate has often been heated and sometimes acrimonious, but a dispassionate man from Mars would not think we had it any harder than any other party. But we are now the fourth political party in the land. Think about that. That is success. And we got here through democratic debate. Debate among an unusually active, intelligent and questioning membership. But above all, in order to cohere, a party like ours needs a clear vision of its objective and enormous goodwill and camaraderie to achieve it. The evidence that we have both is here, in this hall. It's you. And inevitably, it has meant a degree of compromise. Compromise made palatable by the importance of the ultimate objective. These have been exciting sea trials, but now the sails must be set for the main voyage. In the face of a possibly imminent election, it is right. I'm asking the proposers, in the spirit of camaraderie, to withdraw the motion. We can have the debate, but please do not press it to a vote.
Ian Edwards, please. Ian Edwards.
Can you all hear me? Mr. Chairman, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I think we've actually witnessed both sides of the debate already, so I will be extremely brief. My viewpoints on this is that it's not totally clear to me precisely what UKIP's definition of free trade has been, but if the definition is perhaps as free trade has been within the UK and the world, I do question some of its efficacy. I believe that the UK as an economic household must manage our budget and balance our trade accounts within that. Free trade, absolutely, but within the confines of a balanced economy and a balanced set of books. I think, and I'm not seeing that in UKIP's policies and speeches, excellent though they have been. And the trade policy proposals outlined yesterday by David Sinclair, Tony Stone, fully support them. But is free trade, unbridled as it were, the answer for the next 50 years? And I think we have to appreciate that, as it was mentioned again yesterday by Tim Congdon, the world is changing. It's not just Europe and America. Places like China, 1.3 billion people, vast economies, and they're going to swamp us with their products and services. And I think if we are to see our fledgling industries, we want to see manufacturing come back, farming, fishing, etc., I think we do need to look towards nurturing those industries in their fledgling years, as countries like China do to theirs. And I would like to see some more of that side coming out in the proposals. Thank you very much.
Stephen Bush, please.
Decrepit looking as I am this morning, but I'm nursing 3 cracked ribs on my right. So, I have very great sympathy with the motives in the proposer and his supporters. And as I've already said this morning, manufacturing expansion is by a considerable amount, is one of the goals of our Jobs, Economy and Enterprise Policy Group. But I think it's important to see that we can achieve this. We certainly are in favour of nurturing, but we're not in favour of feather bedding, which is implied in the concept, I think, of tariff erections. It's very important, I think, to see that we are a part of the World Trading Organization, and this will be our principal protection when we withdraw from the European Union against their throwing up barriers against us. So I think we have to abide by the World Trading Organization rules, and I have to say that the vast majority of industrial products, i.e. manufactured products, are actually tariff-free in the world. Within Europe, they are entirely tariff-free. And the majority of goods in areas like textiles come in with pretty small tariff protection, 10% thereabouts, not much more, and sometimes only as little as 3%. So we would be pushing at something which is really not the most significant aspect of rebuilding our manufacturing. And having said that, as I said in my own speech a moment ago, we are absolutely not in favour of one-sided free trade in either goods or companies. And the threat to us in companies is more present, really, than in goods. So, reluctantly, I would oppose this motion. I think the best way is for the proposers to withdraw it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. John Bailey, the proposer, has the right for a 2-minute summing up.
I find this a very difficult situation in one sense, because there's an intrinsic conflict within what I'm saying, in the sense that I am essentially asking for an open debate on this subject, to close down the idea of total laissez-faire. At the same time, I'm having to put some strong, what I hope are strong arguments in favour of actual measures such as imposition of tariff barriers, particularly against countries which are at a very different stage of economic development from us. Because I simply do not believe, under the current situation, that we can compete on tariff-free basis with China, where they have an economy which are a little better than slaves, quite honestly, working under very poor working conditions, and produce goods to import it here. How can we possibly rejuvenate our textiles, steel, and other areas of manufacturing under those circumstances without tariff barriers, particularly when the Chinese impose the biggest tariff barrier of them all, which is a very low and artificially low value of the renminbi, of the Chinese currency. It is simply not possible. I mean, I'd like to go on further. I think that UKIP, it is in terms of the debate, should we galvanise together under one view, or should we have these debates more openly? I think the latter. We should allow the debate to go ahead, and that is a sign of a mature political party, as against a pressure group. It has the confidence to go ahead in this way. I would still ask people to vote for the motion, for the further debate of these points. Eventually, I might decide, yes, total laissez-faire, no tariff barriers, a good thing. I might decide that, I might not. I would like to see the debate go ahead. Please, thank you.
Before we take the vote, I'd like to thank all speakers for their patience, for their indulgence, for their clarity of speech, and to remark it's uncannily like the European Union, where the only person to need a check on his time and who ran over time was he who spoke against. It's most unusual. The rules say that I can take the vote and I can judge the vote carried for or against or by 2/3, and if you don't like my decision, 50 people standing can challenge that, and we let loose on you the tellers. Were those all in favour of the motion? Pardon? Of course, and my apologies if I didn't read it out before we started. The motion says, UKIP should freely debate a policy of equitable tariffs in place of its current policy of laissez-faire free trade. This is essential to rebuild manufacturing and tackle our trade deficit, whilst reducing unemployment and rebalancing the manufacturing and service sectors. All those in favour of the motion, please show. Greg Beeman has tellers organised, I understand. Pardon? Paul Nuttall, please, could you come forward and help with the count? And the other teller's coming now. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Those for the motion, please show. Yes, he's divided the upstairs into two. Don't worry. What have you got? Thank you. And those against, please show. What have we got? In favour?
Very good. It's very well, but the points were I wondered a lot about the minutes. I've met
I think I said when I, thank you very much. I think I said when I counted that I thought it was lost. This often happens in the European Parliament and the person in the chair is challenged and then we do an electronic check. And sometimes he's right and sometimes he's wrong. The votes for were 120, the votes against 112. It was lost, just. Thank you for your, thank you for your participation and for your patience. I hand you back to the party chairman. I've never served such a pernickety lot in all my life. How many people wish to indicate abstention, please? Yes, what's the count, please tell us? Well, tellers didn't desert me, did they? Only a voting card, of course. and with 21 abstentions. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, thank you, Derek, for saying to all that job. By the way, I think we need to have a recount because I noticed a great many of you were holding your voting cards upside down. Thanks to Derek Clark. Of course he knows how to do this. He's been involved in voting procedures, as we all have, in the European Parliament for a great length of time. So thanks, Derek. By the way, I didn't mention, of course, that Derek was previously party secretary for the UK Independence Party in a previous era, about 4 or 5 years ago. And so he knows all about the organisation of this party, as you noticed with his in orders to the competent procedures just now. So thank you very much, Derek. Let's move on. Let's move on now to the next item on the agenda, which is talking about UKIP's campaign. Can we have Steve Allison up to chair the next session, please? And Gawain Towler, who is going to speak first. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Steve Allison. I'm here to chair the next session, which is entitled UKIP's Campaigns. We could probably do a whole conference on UKIP's campaigns, but we've got just over 20 minutes. The first person who is actually going to speak to us this morning is Gawain Towler, and he's going to speak on recruiting PCs and local candidates. I did ask Gawain for a brief introduction about himself, and he gave me quite an essay, which would probably take the full 20 minutes to read. Sufficient to say he's currently the press officer and chief of staff of UKIP's MEPs in Brussels, where he's worked for the last 3 years. Before that, he was a journalist, and many of you will have read his magazine, Brussels, The Sprout, and he's correspondent for Private Eye, which I don't know if that makes him one of us or one of them, I'm not quite sure. But so on PPCs, recruiting and local candidates, Gawain Towler.
Thank you, Steve. I think somebody else said this week, but I haven't really got a written speech. Sorry, I haven't really got a written speech, so it might be a bit messy, but it's from the heart. I'm here mainly because I myself was selected only the night before last. It's not painful, it's quite easy, and I can encourage you all to do it. It's a good thing to do. As we all know, it is possible on Tuesday that the one-eyed one will call a snap election. In his cyclopean way, I think he has driven himself into this position. Okay. Now, if that is the case, it is imperative that we as a party have as close to a full slate of candidates as is possible. There are two key reasons for this. One, if we're not there, people can't vote for us. And we are letting down the people of this country if they do not have the opportunity to vote for UKIP. The second reason is maybe a little bit more prosaic, nay venal. Because, and we oppose this wholeheartedly, because it looks likely that the party funding in future will be done through the state, it is imperative that we get those votes. Every general election vote is worth this party 50 pence. They're going to cut the ability for us to raise funds in a normal, traditional fashion, i.e. people who want to fund a political party get to fund a political party. No, they're going to take it out of you from the people's pay packets. It's wrong, but if we even achieve what we managed last time, we're touching almost £1 million a year for party funding. That it will be a phenomenal amount, and the party will be able to campaign more effectively to get our country's freedom back. This is essential. Now, I've been speaking to Steve, I've been speaking to some of the ROs, and I've been speaking to Jonathan Iles at the back. Key points that I want to make clear. If you wish to stand, and as I say, I encourage you to do so, if you wish to stand as a candidate at the next Westminster election, you have, if he calls it on Tuesday, as we believe he may, You have 48 hours for your leaflets that goes out, if the Royal Mail aren't on strike, that goes out to everybody. From Tuesday, you have 48 hours for that leaflet to be at the printers. But there is a problem here. First, we have to have the information within 24 hours because it has to go to the not on strike post office for checking first. So that means by Wednesday, each candidate needs to have sent to Jonathan Arnott a 40-word description of themselves and why they want to do this, a digital photograph of themselves, and a postal address, and please not a post office box address, a normal postal address. These are key details. Now, if you're going to do this, and I encourage you to do so, then Jonathan is there now. You can scribble down your 40 words, he'll take the photograph, and it'll all be done and dusted before you leave this hall. And I really, really encourage you to do that. Now, of course, each candidate will be asked to put up the £500 deposit. Some branches may be able to help, but by and large, no. Now, I know this is a problem. For me, in North Dorset, last time we were on 3.6%, so maybe I might be losing my £500. But if we look at our election performances over the last few elections, in 2001, we saved 5 deposits. In 2005, we saved 48. I would expect that a good 100 of you will not be losing your deposit this time, and it's money invested in our country anyhow. The other cost is the flyer, and that will cost around about £500 per constituency. So it's going to be £1,000 up front per constituency to fight this election. As I say, if in each constituency we get 1,000 votes, and in most constituencies we do get well more than 1,000 votes, that pays for itself in the funding that the party will receive over the first year of state funding. So it is a seriously good investment for the party and for the country. Other than that, if you haven't stood for election before, I'll let you into a small secret. It's a hell of a lot of fun. It really is. It is. If we are in this hall, if we're members of this party, we believe passionately in our country and our country's freedom. Talking to people about that isn't scary. You know, most of them agree with us. Oh, they might not vote for us, but they have enormous sympathies with us. People don't want to give up their freedoms. People don't want to give up their liberties. People don't want to give up their country. And you'll be talking to people who have a great deal of sympathy. Don't expect people to throw bricks at you. Don't expect people to spit at you. And remember, I was once a Conservative candidate in central Glasgow, so I do know the downside. But in all honesty and truth, it is one of the more fun things you can do. So I encourage you to do exactly that. At the back, you've got Jonathan. Put your name down, speak to your ROs, get yourself together, and have an awful lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Gwen. Our next speaker, mounting the platform, is Mr. Rolo Reid, who is going to talk to us about the Christchurch branch's membership drive. And I believe he even has a very professionally produced overhead projector show, which... Mr. Reid.
Good morning, conference. I'm Rollo Reid from Christchurch, UKIP. I myself am a structural engineer. My company in Christchurch designs and manufactures and exports buildings all over the world. Currently we're about 80% export all over the world, very little of it to Europe, almost all of it to what we would call the third world. We're great believers in free trade. I was absolutely distressed and amazed and staggered and offended that our government and other people, bureaucrats that work for our government, imposed Euro codes on us, which is something that will help make our product very uncompetitive. So therefore I joined UKIP. The only way out was to get out. I joined Christchurch UKIP. Within a few days, I'd been nobbled for the committee. And we have a fabulous committee in Christchurch, 12 or 15 or various people. You've heard about Dick Heaslip already. Great people, not a loony, not a fruitcake, not a crank in sight. Very, very good people. But we were on a bit of a high when I joined. It was just about the time of the European elections. And we found that we were going down from yourself. I suggest you change the letterhead slightly, because the colours that many people are very attracted to, and Mr. Curly Worm pound sign, which people are very attracted to when there are old soldiers in UKIP, are not something that appeals to people. Our letterhead is a nice little picture of Christchurch with a Saxon's cross, a Norman church, all previous illegal immigrants. But it is part of Christchurch, and we're not trying to sell UKIP, we're not trying to sell the main party. We are trying to get people into Christchurch UKIP and believe that we're on their side. And I think that's the way forward if we want to get votes. Thank you.
Thank you, Rolo. Yes, I mean, it's a very, very, very worthwhile programme and been very successful. We have one more speaker on the programme, but there's actually a bonus speaker right at the end, which I'll tease you with later. But our last speaker on the programme is Malcolm Wood. He tells me he joined UKIP in 1994 after seeing Nigel's European election address. So he's been with us quite a while. He's going to tell us all about parish polls, which many of you may have read about in the national newspapers, where the mouse that roared, and how you can actually organise one for yourself and how they're doing. I did ask him to give me a little bit more on that, and I've got a phrase. He told me here, "I will talk on parish polls, but God knows what I will say, as it changes every day." Malcolm Wood, thank you.
Good morning, I suppose my lords, ladies and gentlemen, because William Dartmouth is out there somewhere. Incidentally, one little housekeeping thing. William, the Earl of Dartmouth, has very kindly invited the members of the South West to pre-lunch drinks. Could you make your way, members of the South West, to the White Room when Nigel Farage has finished speaking? In other words, we're altering the times on you, because you're obviously not going to want to miss Nigel this morning. Right, my subject is the parish polls. The only reason I'm doing it is because Trevor Coleman is not able to make this conference today. One of his friends is apparently making an honest woman of a long-term girlfriend, so Trevor can't be here. So it's for me to speak on this, but I have to give acknowledgement to Trevor Coleman. He came up with the idea, as I briefly mentioned yesterday, of resuscitating an organisation called CARP, which stands for Campaign Alliance for Referendums in Parishes, and it is that reinstated organisation which has been making a few headlines around the place, which I used yesterday and I'll repeat today. First of all, general word. There is nothing, in my opinion, at this moment in time as important as obtaining a referendum and winning a referendum on the subject of the Reform Treaty, otherwise known as the EU Constitution. My first slide, please. Thanks to Alan Bounds, cartoonist, we did sort of put this into graphic form. You'll see that we've got Gordon Brown, poking Britannia in her back with her own trident, leading her to a guillotine where awaits her an EU executioner to use on her a guillotine entitled, or blade entitled, the EU Constitution, which graphically is designed to show exactly what Brown is thinking of doing to this country. So, we therefore have to do anything at all in order to obtain that referendum. And that is where the Campaign Alliance for Referendums in Parishes comes in. As I explained yesterday, it's a piece of legislation still extant on the statute book under the Local Government Act 1972, which permits a parish to call a poll on any subject. Now, it's a little bit, not quite that easy, because we have our problems in getting it past some of the district councils. What actually happens is that the parish calls the referendum and the district council carries it out. And we're doing a lot of shadow boxing with the district council. Sometimes we win, sometimes we don't. When we win, it's spectacular. As I showed you yesterday, the mouse that roared, the village of East Stoke, and you met yesterday a couple of the heroes that got that one through. But we've also had some more headlines as well. What's that one? Village to tackle the might of Europe. Incidentally, I believe there were 380 voters in East Stoke. So it really is the mouse, isn't it, taking on the monster. Now, let me show you a little bit about the detail of what has to happen. Basically, you need 6 signatures to call a parish poll. You call, a parish meeting. And you put up posters as well about that parish meeting in any prominent places in the parish. The parish council, you inform them. You don't have to ask their permission. This is nothing to do with the parish council. In fact, you may find they're not too keen on it. You then publish an agenda and you hold your parish meeting, and all you need is 10 people there, a minimum of 10, or 1/3 of the people attending. We had a lovely little case up in Gloucestershire. The parish council didn't want us to have a referendum in South Gloucestershire. So they packed the meeting with their own people. The whole council turned up. We had 9, they had 9. And then because he'd insisted upon chairing the meeting, the parish chairman gave his casting vote against. And next morning, he got a letter from the district council telling him he lost. Because all we needed was 1/3. Right, so we have, as you gather, a bit of fun on this. One of the nice things about it is that people who are carrying out these polls, and they don't have to be UKIP, of course, they could be, in fact, the wider it is, the better. These are people that have probably never spoken at any stage to a meeting in their lives before. And it's quite a strain on them. But of course, the sense of triumph when they succeed is wonderful. Probably changes their whole lives. Marvellous. So we've had some good people here. If you can, of course, get the moving spirit in the parish to be a prospective parliamentary candidate, then the coverage of the local newspapers might do his election chances no end of good. But it is, as I stress, a cross-party venture. Now, if we're lucky, we've got 36 of these running, and they're mainly in the southwest at the moment. If we're lucky, we can get this thing to spread like a brush fire across the UK. And this is all part of the pressure. This keeps it in the newspapers. The local newspapers, of course, as well as the nationals, or particularly the local newspapers. We've had fabulous coverage in the Western Morning News and that sort of thing in the southwest. So it's a very worthwhile thing to do. Just a little bit more of a detail. We will give you a manual showing all the background to this. I wouldn't expect, I'm not going to ask questions on the content of that slide up there. It's merely to show that we've got the thing nailed to the floor legally. Okay? So if you want to come and see me later, I'll put you in touch with Trevor Coleman. We can give you the latest information on the parish polls as to which question we phrase and this sort of thing. It's an ongoing process. As I say, there's some shadow boxing going on with the district councils, with the electoral returning officers, but we are gradually getting these polls through. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Come and see me later if you can help.
Thank you, Malcolm. Actually, I've got a little bit of experience with parish polls. We ran one in Hartlepool in 2001, where we had a vote of no confidence in the existing parish council, and we got an 80% vote against them, and they all resigned, and we got a new parish council. At the time, the borough solicitor of Hartlepool Borough Council said to me, "Thank goodness this doesn't apply to borough councils. What would we like if we had to keep asking people what they thought about things?" And of course, UKIP want to apply to borough councils, don't we? That's why we want local referenda on local issues. But I promised you a bonus speaker who's going to give you a couple of minutes. One of the things that we sometimes get a lot of criticism for in UKIP is we're not very up on the new technology, websites, emails, things like this. And Rob McWhirter is going to come and speak to you for a couple of minutes on the use of branch websites and websites in campaigning and candidates' email addresses and that sort of thing. So Rob, a couple of minutes for Rob. Thank you very much.
There's meant to be some sort of presentation coming up on the screen in a second, and hopefully the picture will change. Good morning. I've been asked by Nigel to help out on the subject of branch websites and branch websites. Still no picture. Can somebody start the presentation up there, please? Here we go. I've been asked by Nigel to help out on branch websites and branch website coordination. There we go. Because there's a lot of branch websites out there, and surprisingly, we don't have a good idea, or not a very good idea, of how many there actually are. So I've been asked to compile a catalogue and do various other activities like help keep them up to date. And I'm working with a very talented team, including, of course, David Sinclair, who I report to, and Chris Mounsey, and Alex McKee. And I've got an actual web address, branch websites at ukip.org, if you want to contact me. But the main thing I want to talk about very briefly today is candidate websites in the coming general election. In the past, some candidates have websites, some like Nigel, some others doing things on their own bat, and it's been good, but it's been incoherent. We're now going to change that. We are going to take a standard campaigning slogan like Vote Farage, and we're going to add benefit. Put a hyphen in the middle, put a .info on the end, and suddenly you've got a valid domain name. For those who don't know anything about the internet, that's fine, you've still got the message, Vote Farage. For those who do know, type it into your browser, and hey presto, you'll get a target landing page on ukip.org telling you all you want to know about your candidate. Now, that's fine, I hear you say, but why does Nigel always get the good toys to play with? And the answer is, it's not just Nigel this time. We're doing it for every single UKIP candidate. Farage, DCB, Brown, Nattrass, Gulliford, Hughes, you name it. If you are a candidate, we're registering your domain name, and you will have a custom page on the UKIP website telling people all about you, your picture, whatever. If you've got your own website, there'll be a link to that there as well. Steve Allison and John Arnott are going to make sure it's on the election addresses. David Sinclair is going to make sure there's pretty content when people land there. And we are the only party doing this, I think, so far for all our candidates. The first party where every candidate has a web address, and that's something the press office can shout about, and it's something candidates can shout about to their local newspapers. This will make a difference. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Rob. That concludes the little session that's down for us today. The only thing I would like to say in conclusion is that Jonathan Arnott at the back, underneath the big orange sign with MEP and candidates, go and see him if you want to get your 40 words. He's got a digital camera there, get your photograph done. As Rob has said, we'll give you a website and a website address with your own name on it. We need to fight as many constituencies as we can. It's very important for our credibility and our vision. So please, if you want to do anything for UKIP today, go and see Jonathan, get yourself sorted out. Thank you very much and good luck when the general election does come. Thank you.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, the next item on this morning's exciting agenda is for Delroy Young to introduce Young Independents. Can we have Delroy and your team up here, please, Del? I might say, of course, that belonging to UKIP, we all know is a rejuvenating experience. I've been in UKIP about 10 years myself, and I've grown younger every year. I know I don't look it, and I can say that about a lot of us here, but of course it's all terribly good for us, but what we really need are real young people, not just those who pretend and try to think that they are. Del.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen, or shall I say afternoon, getting close to 12 o'clock. When I decided to take on this project in February of this year, late February, I did do an article for the Independent News. In that article, I set out what I was hoping to achieve with the Young Independents, and also at the time, I wanted to use the opportunity to do some fundraising in order to get the relevant finances we need in order to take it forward. At the same time, making a call for people out there with the various skills and experiences that we may need to call upon in order to help this thing to grow firmly and in a structured, organized way. Unfortunately, that article was not published. I then requested for it to go in May. That was not published either. So, who knows? I might try again soon. Ladies and gentlemen, it is very important that we have a youth side in the party. After all, the European Union, and even our own government, is spending an awful lot of time trying to persuade the young that the British culture, the British values, the British tradition, the British way of life is not important anymore. And we have to do something to counteract that. And I believe in the youth movement will be able to do that. I believe in a society, both young and old can exist together. One cannot exist without the other. And each generation, in any nation, needs to pass on the traditions and qualities and values of that society. And I believe as you move away, the young will come in to replace you, to carry on the great, wonderful and beautiful tradition that this country has and should be indeed very proud of. So while they're busy brainwashing the youth of today and destroying it, there will always be a little light of hope within this party for the young to understand and appreciate the beauty of their country. What I have put in place, ladies and gentlemen, is a youth council to enable to take the things forward. I really want this thing to be for the youth by the young. I've also appointed, personally myself, 4 mentors. These are people, they're not young people, they're members of the party. I really do believe that we do have skills and ability in this party that we could utilize a lot more. And the mentors are there to help to guide the Youth Council on its way forward. We decided to call it Young Independents as opposed to UKIP or UKIP Youth, etc. I think it would be rather difficult to go up to a young lady of 23 and say, would you like to be in UKIP Youth? I think it's far more enticing to say, would you like to be a member of Young Independents? Also as well, by having the Young Independents, it gives a sign of, shall we say, professionalism and elegance and maturity at the same time. What we have there, as the Youth Council settles in, myself and the mentors will fall away. and leaving them with greater independence to get on and doing what they do. They will still come under the control of the NEC. After all, they're the governing body of your party. But the NEC, as I've asked the NEC to realize, that they need to be managed in a different way than how the parent party is managed at present. So that will be done. The youth council is there. They're appointed at present. I'm hoping at some point to have elections soon, but they're appointed. And it's in order to get the right people in place. Ladies and gentlemen, if the people on the youth council are not the right people in place, then I will make the decision to remove them. The youth organization has to be productive. It has to be proactive. It is no longer about fancy titles, sit back and smile gleefully. It has to be about action, and action is where it needs to have. The fact that and so doing, we will bring younger people in the party will grow, and we could only benefit from that. So don't be surprised, ladies and gentlemen, if one minute you see somebody was a secretary or whatever position they had, but another minute they weren't there. Because this is about results, and I'm serious about this. It has to be about results. We can't have any more of flash titles, glib speech, but no results. Because this country needs fighters, not talkers. I had the great pleasure yesterday of talking to Lord Willowborough de Broke. I asked him if he will do me the honor, and the whole party, the honor of becoming the patron of the youth movement. And he quite happily said yes, and he wants to do his best. And he stresses that he will do whatever he can, in whichever way he can, to make this work, because he believes in it wholeheartedly. So we'll be able to put his name onto our letterheads, onto our website. Every literature we have, his name will appear as the patron, and that is a wonderful thing for this youth movement. As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, I am not just building from point of view something to last for tomorrow, but something to last forever, something of strength, something of professionalism all the way through, and a structure. Naturally, as time goes on, to take it further, we require funds. Some of you will see we have the cake competition, you'll be given leaflets and fundraising letter, etc. Money is important to us, and I do ask you to give generously. I would now like to make way to introduce you to some members of the youth movement. James Brown, who is a full-time administrator at head office. James will be there to talk to universities and colleges and other young institutions, and that's a full-time paid position, and they will be at the end of the phone at all times. So you can see we're already billing on a professional level. And James will then introduce Michael Heaver, who is the youth secretary, and then Wayne Harling, who I appointed the chairman of the youth movement. Ladies and gentlemen, I will now make way for the energetic young. Thank you very much indeed.
Oh, well, hello conference. Thank you, Del. My name is James Braund, and I am the administrator for Young Independents. Now, some may say that's the triumph of hope over experience, but my job is to work out what the committee have actually decided and then see that it happens. Along with managing the membership records, I'm responsible for maintaining the website, and I serve as a point of contact for members and the public. Although we've only had one meeting so far, Wayne Harling, the chairman, and his fellow youth councillors have thrown themselves into their roles and are hungry to generate ideas of how we can get our message out to young people. They spoke with such passion and enthusiasm about their plans for Young Independents that I am proud to assist them in their activities. Del Young must also be congratulated for his hard work in establishing a structure that ensures these young men have the opportunity to make the movement truly relevant in engaging for under 30s. The website allows us to instantly, and perhaps more importantly cheaply, communicate with the world. Along with news and details of events relevant to them, young people are able to take part in debates in our forum and comment on the articles they read. It's the hub of Young Independents, and by drawing on the visitors' suggestions and comments, we can accurately gauge what the hot topics are at any time. So now that we have the basic tools to communicate, our task is to draw new members in. We're working to produce info packs for new and prospective members, mugs and pens bearing the website address, branch starter packs, items suitable for freshers' fairs and rallies. These are all priorities that I know the Youth Council are looking very carefully at, and especially the fundraising officer, Paul Dinette, because it all costs money. Sorry to keep mentioning money, but please give generously. Yesterday we heard speaker after speaker ask, how do we engage with the young? Well, here's your answer. We've got Young Independents now. It's important because young people are the voters and politicians of the future, and UKIP is offering a real alternative to the main parties. But we're kept at bay by the hangers-on to a European dream. With all that's taught and not taught in schools today, don't you think UKIP should be part of their education? We are the only party putting Britain's interests before ourselves and fighting for them, and we should let them know. Now, I'm a town councillor as well, so I'm fortunate that I can put the needs of local youth directly to the town and district councils. But many of my friends tell me they don't vote in general elections because they feel undervalued and underrepresented by the big three. With Young Independents, UKIP can reach out to these disaffected. None of the other parties are getting their votes. We will represent them, and we will be the ones to take their votes. With a dedicated movement run by young people, for young people, the United Kingdom Independence Party will be the party for under 30s. And it is my privilege to work on your behalf to ensure we have a presence in workplaces, schools and universities across Britain, bringing in young members to our party and adding strength to our voice. They will be our future councillors, they will be our future MEPs, and I dare say they will be our future MPs. In short, they will be our future. I'd like to pass over now to the Secretary of Young Independents, Michael Heather.
Now, it might be my youthful ignorance, but the choice in British politics today is dire. The teachers tell me this isn't the case. Well, let's assess the situation. We've got David Cameron, surrounded by his Eton elite. We've got Gordon Brown, the man that said in his first speech that he would do his very best for this country, and he's selling down the river, and he knows it, and that's why he won't let us, the people of this country, have a say. You've got people like Min Campbell. What does he stand for? Populist drive. You know, young people are sick and tired of these parties standing for nothing, but there's no alternative there. What we're trying to do is make it so we have an alternative, so we have UKIP in the eyes of the youth. UKIP have a lot of resources that we can use to attract young people. We have an appealing leader. We have a man that can appeal to youngsters. We have common sense policies, not just on the EU, as everybody always tells me. We have a manifesto. We have policy committees. We have some of the best policies on crime, education, immigration, etc. that I've ever seen. Yet people don't even know. And they're too ignorant to go onto the website or to ask someone. They assume that we're a Tory pressure group, that we're not to be taken seriously. Well, from now on, the youth of this party, and hopefully as we grow, will be able to show that we're not going to put up with the consensus anymore. We're going to break the mould of this politics in this country currently, because it's disgusting. Now, I can understand if you thought that young people are uninterested in politics. This is not the case. The thing is, the attitude at the moment is that when we see our British MPs in our British Parliament, we see that it's simply a talking shop. a negotiation for a few of our to make a few laws that aren't determined by Brussels. There's a few MPs now that stand for true British values, that stand up and vote against the leaders. If UKIP does not succeed, this is going to continue, and this trend is only going to get worse. A lot of you in your lives have seen politics deteriorate, and it saddens me to say that I've only seen this ugly monster of side of politics. Politics was once about debating and doing the best for your country, and it would seem nowadays it's become a career rather than a passion, and that's what we need to be about. So what are Young Independents going to do to fight for our future? Well, we're going to be doing a variety of things, from freshers' fairs at universities to local campaigning, from internet campaigns where we can reach a huge audience at very minimal cost. Sorry. And even the odd occasion wacky PR stunt. Last though, I'd just like to say, finishing with this thought, the next general election, whether it's announced on Tuesday or in the next 2 years, will be the first time that I vote, and I will be voting for UKIP. And I don't see why the last vote that I ever make in this country will not be for UKIP. And what we need is people like that who vote for UKIP year in, year out, who are brought into this party, showing that we stand for true values that they can relate with in their everyday lives, instead of the constant propaganda that goes on in this country, telling young people that they can't make a difference, and that their views are not the views held by the majority of the people in this country when they are. Thank you. I'd just like to now introduce you to the Executive Chairman of Young Independents, Wayne Harlan. Thank you.
Hello and good morning, well, good afternoon, sorry. I hope you're all enjoying the conference as much as I am. Firstly, I'd like to thank Delroy Young for appointing me to the position of Executive Chairman of Young Independents and for putting together this new dynamic youth movement within UKIP, known as Young Independents. Our aim is simple. We want to attract more young people into UKIP. But how do we do this? Well, as Young Independents, we will strive to campaign in all colleges and all universities within the UK. The biggest concern to students is not the EU. Many students are unaware of what the EU is about and, frankly, don't really care. It is tuition fees. We must inform the young people that Labour, the Conservatives and the Liberal bureaucrats will support tuition fees. Only UKIP will scrap these elitist tuition fees for all students. Elections. This year I stood as a local candidate twice, once in May and one in a by-election this June. In the latter, I doubled the UKIP vote to 8% in a university campus. It is one thing engaging debate in universities, but the debate will only be truly won by winning elections. But to win elections, we need to stand in them and to contest all of them. Elections are fun. Elections are fun, give people essential experience, but the great thing about local elections is that they are free. You don't have to pay any money to stand as a local candidate. We need to campaign on local issues and issues such as education, which matter to young people. I urge all you branch chairmen out here to engage with the youth in your area and to get young candidates. This will benefit your branch, making it much more energetic and dynamic, increasing your success, but most importantly, it will benefit UKIP and the nation that we're fighting for. I want all eligible members of Young Independents to see Steve Allison and put their name down for PPC and European elections. And I want them to all stand as at least a paper candidate in their home ward as well. In conclusion, now I appeal to all you to let us move forward and not back and help Young Independents to unlock that hidden potential that this party has. We all want independence. Conservative Future and Labour students do not support independence. Support Young Independents and vote UKIP.
Thank you, Del, introducing a magnificent team there. Can we move on to next item, the last item before the party leader? Peter Reeve, please, is now going to introduce two new recruits of the party. Peter, have we got you here, please?
Many thanks and good morning to everybody. In the last European elections, we won more MEP seats than ever before, and I'm proud of the work that many of our MEPs have achieved. Though our MEPs do a fantastic job and regularly win UKIP's battles, not least in squirreling out and exposing corruption by those in public office and the waste and theft of public monies. But the war cannot be won in Brussels. The war can only be won here in the UK. I hope this weekend will illustrate well that this party is now in a stronger position than ever before. We now have representation in Westminster through our UKIP Lords, and Gwaine has illustrated well this morning the importance of standing and fighting to win seats in the Commons. And I wish all of our prospective parliamentary candidates the very best of luck. We now have the strongest, most relevant, most detailed sets of domestic policies that have ever been set out by UKIP. And this great work has to be down to the remarkable people that are in and writing our policies in the policy working groups. I believe we now have the strongest platform ever to stand and fight and win elections. And that platform is based on principles and true values that we all share. As well as these policies, these groups have achieved, which should ensure that UKIP will never ever again be sidelined from the domestic political agenda. I have been absolutely staggered by the sheer quality of the individuals that are now joining UKIP as members and are writing our policy for us. The fact that we are sturdy in our principles and will not pander to the media's whims has attracted these and many other high-quality individuals to join and represent our party. And I am very proud to be able to introduce you today to one of those high-caliber individuals that have come onto my region in the Eastern Counties. Councillor Michael Baker is a renowned Norfolk businessman and an entrepreneur. He has a long-standing record of representing his community in North Norfolk District Council for over a quarter of a century, and I am very pleased and proud to be able to say that he now represents Holt as a UKIP District Councillor. And he's one of a very fast-growing group of district councillors representing UKIP that are very often the only voice of truth and honesty within the council chambers. And I thank him and the rest of our district councillors for that. So without further ado, please let me introduce to you today Councillor Michael Baker.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I need my glasses. I've been asked to say a few words to explain my move to UKIP. Although I've only recently joined UKIP, my interest has been there for some time. I voted UKIP in the last 2 European elections. My move has caused some interest locally, as I have become the first UKIP councillor on the North Norfolk District Council. Incidentally, since my move, I have had both Lib Dem and Conservative councillors come to me and whisper, "I wish I had the courage to do what you have done." We have far more support out there than you may think. Anyway, why did I change my allegiance? With a bit of poetic license, we can trace our family back to the time of the Norman Conquest. Our family coat of arms has a swan on it to indicate allegiance to the crown. The roots of our family business date from 1732, prior to the Industrial Revolution. I am English through and through. My political life started at school and university supporting the Labour Party. After the 1966 general election, when I tramped the streets of Battersea South, securing a Labour MP, I then witnessed several members of the Wandsworth Labour Party facing criminal prosecution for illegal activities in the placing of council building contracts. That finished my love affair with Labour. I then moved to the Conservatives and eventually with Margaret Thatcher saw Great Britain emerge as a major world power again. Sadly, that waned and Europe loomed. Finally, it became evident that David Cameron would not commit the party to withdraw from the common market. I am in favour of bilateral trade agreements, but that is as far as it goes. We owe it to our parents and grandparents who fought 2 world wars to maintain democracy and our way of life. We must retain our ability to rule our country as we think fit. Border controls are essential. It is criminally irresponsible to have a system where the authorities are unaware of who is coming into our country and who is living here. We now see that Britain has become a country of disparate communities. We, the English, are becoming the oppressed minority in our own country. It is becoming impossible to criticise foreigners or religion other than the Church of England without running the risk of prosecution. Ask the Native Americans whether there should have been a control on immigration. Before I am labelled a racist, let me say I have no problems with foreigners coming to England, providing they have a skill we require and they are prepared to speak English and integrate. Indeed, many of them work much harder than some of our social security sponges. We must free our police from form-filling and political correctness. Our courts must support our country. Any foreigners transgressing our laws must be deported. We should not be expected to have to support them during a lengthy jail sentence. We should support our farmers. We must learn to feed ourselves again. As an island, we now operate on, I believe, less than 60% self-sufficiency, and this will decrease further as we build more and more houses to accommodate the waves of immigration. Finally, we must regain our position as an independent country, trading with like-minded groups, the Commonwealth, India, China, America. The European model is based on an out-of-date, ill-conceived idea. We must escape. Don't let us become a region of Europe rather than the Great British Isles. And finally, there is now little to choose between the two major parties. They both want to stay in and integrate further into the European community. If every one of us here today makes a pledge to sign up 5 new members by New Year's Eve, then my contribution will have been worthwhile. Thank you.